What's going on, guys? It's the Unhinged Engineer here, back with episode 21 of our grad school vlog. As you can see, I have created my beautiful new set. That is sarcasm. But nonetheless, we are moving on with the end of the Game AI course. So, last week I submitted my last assignment for the Game AI course. That was about procedurally generated content. We'll talk about that today. And that's basically the end of the course. I took all the quizzes that were remaining, which are mainly related to PCG, some of the behavior, decision-making systems we learned about, like FSMs and decision trees, a little bit about like machine learning, very small amount about machine learning. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the course. So the next vlog episode I'll be making in the next couple weeks here will be like an overall review of the Game AI class in general. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I'm excited to share with you guys. But yeah, today is going to be kind of the last normal episode of the Game AI section of this vlog. So I'll jump right into what the assignment was about. The main thing we focused on for procedurally generated content, at least in terms of the assignment, was about like terrain creation with Perlin noise. So Perlin noise is basically a way of creating, random distributions that like run at different frequencies. And if you layer these different frequencies in different ways, they can kind of generate natural looking content, or terrain, I should say, right? So mountains might have like higher amplitudes at higher frequencies if the mountain's jagged, or if you want to smooth it out, maybe you lower some of the frequencies of the constituents of the signal, right? You could imagine it's the same kind of way that you would modulate information at different frequencies in a given signal. You're also kind of like varying things at different altitudes or different areas of the cross section of the terrain. You kind of see what I'm getting at here, right? Basically, you just take a whole bunch of noise, you cobble it together in a way that looks natural. And usually the method of cobbling together is about like nodes, right? So you have like parent nodes and then children of those parent nodes. And so the peaks and troughs of like children kind of line up with the peaks and troughs of their parents, right? And so layering these things in different ways is kind of what the assignment was really about. So we had to create this terrain in a setup that they gave us. And, you had to have three distinct kind of like biomes. So for me, there were just like peaks, valleys, and hills. So hills were kind of muted compared to peaks and valleys, right? But you could do other things too. Like if you wanted to have something that looked like trees versus something that looked like desert, you can imagine the signals in the desert would be much lower amplitude, right? Because everything's more flat. Versus trees, it would be like maybe higher amplitudes at low frequencies and then low amplitudes at high frequencies to kind of get the peaks and troughs of like the tree line, right? Versus the overall hill flow. So that's what the assignment was about. One thing that was kind of interesting and a little strange was that we didn't actually write any code. So they kind of just gave us this like effectively this UI within Unity that we could use to generate this Perlin noise, to layer them, and to ultimately like see how it all comes together in terms of terrain. It was interesting. It was pretty fun. I think like, one of the pieces of feedback, honestly, I'll give for myself about this course is that I paid a little bit less attention in terms of like progress as things went on. Like I wasn't looking as far ahead as I was in the robotics course, honestly, because I didn't really have to. I could kind of just pick it up week by week. So I was a little caught off guard by the fact that like, oh man, like this week I'm not actually writing any code. So I pretty much finished writing C# for the foreseeable future in the fuzzy logic assignment with the racetrack. Not really a complaint or anything, just something I thought was interesting, and especially an interesting note to end the course on. But, we'll see how those are graded. Like, I could imagine maybe they're a little bit nicer with these grades and they're trying to help people out towards the end of the course. I don't really know. That remains to be seen, so I could totally eat these words if I get like a 60 or something. But yeah, you had unlimited submissions on Gradescope. You were basically just kind of submitting the in-game asset that's kind of generated from the the scripts run under the UI that you're working with ultimately. And so yeah, you generate that terrain, you take a whole bunch of screenshots. That was probably the most annoying and time-consuming portion of this assignment overall, was getting all the screenshots of different things. You upload some screenshots, you upload the asset, and that's pretty much it. So I think I'll do pretty well. The only thing that worries me a little bit is that my biomes were a little less distinguishable from one another, as I saw in other people's submissions. Like some people did these crazy, like, other planets, and they have like jagged rocks and then kind of, water formations and like very, very visually distinct biomes from one another. Versus mine, it was pretty bland. It was just like mountains, hills, and then valleys. And obviously from a terrain standpoint, those are distinct from one another, but I really had to like stress the structure of, you know, the noise graph, I guess you could call it, to make those things look visually distinct. And I think I achieved that, right? Like as an example, I thought it was really interesting that the mountains, because they were so jagged, that like branch of the tree went way deeper, right? Because you want noise on noise on noise on noise. Versus the hills, you want it to be more blended and less, you know, less high frequency, right? Like lower frequency overall. So it was just kind of, it was a wider, like, I'm forgetting all my DAG terminology, but it was a wider level of the tree for sure. There was like one parent node to 3 or 4 children nodes of 1, right? Versus 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. So it was interesting how like the physical differences in how hills versus mountains like manifested in the actual graph itself. That was pretty cool. That was interesting. So overall, I don't really have any complaints. I thought it was a fine assignment. Just a little bit of a strange one to end on because we did all this stuff in C#, and this was the first time in the whole class, I think, really, aside from the quizzes, that we had assignments that didn't actually involve any coding. So that was a little strange, but whatever. It is what it is. Yeah, so that's the kind of, I would call it the Perlin noise assignment, but the procedurally generated content assignment. And the lectures did go into other stuff about like placing items and things and constraint propagation and different stuff like that. I did watch those lectures. They were pretty interesting, especially the part about grammars and kind of defining rules symbolically. That was pretty cool. But in terms of the actual assignment, it was really just all about Perlin noise, which is fun. That's all. But yeah, in terms of quizzes, you know, pretty much the same opinion as before. I do think the quizzes for the decision-making models were actually better than the quizzes for like, I guess, geometry, computational geometry and you know, generating nav meshes and stuff. Mainly because the visualizations were better. Like you can draw a finite state machine or a decision tree or whatever else a lot more easily than like, you know, creating a nav mesh that it effectively looked like they created the nav meshes in PowerPoint or something really gnarly. So I don't know why they didn't just use the same visualizer that we used for the homework in the quizzes, because then it would have been like a visual language that was more familiar to us. But instead they opted to kind of draw it out on PowerPoint, which is effectively by hand, right? And so those were pretty gnarly. They were hard to work with, and I would say they affected my score in the quiz. Not a ton, but a little bit. Versus all the visualizations and the questions for decision making were pretty straightforward. Sans a couple of weird ones. That every quiz is gonna have weird questions, right? What else to know? So yeah, I thought the quizzes were higher quality this time around, and I kind of chunked it into 2 halves there. And so I thought the second half was much better than the first. Yeah, quizzes went fine. I think as far as I can tell, you know what? I'll check in real time really quick. As far as I can tell, I think I'm on track to get a 90. Let me pull up Canvas really quickly. I'm forgetting what I have in the course. That's not embarrassing at all. The Wi-Fi in the new apartment is terrible, so I might cut this out. Okay, so I just pulled up my grades. Right now I have a 90.6, and the procedurally generated content assignment has not actually come in yet. So, you know, we're kind of coming down to the wire here. But yeah, thankfully McDonald's Wi-Fi loaded my grades fast enough. So yeah, 90.6, we got 0.6 of a point to shave off before we go into B territory, which, you know, we'll see how that goes. I've heard rumors of extra credit. I'm sure even if I get it, I won't really know. But yeah, obviously in the final review of the course, I'll let you guys know what I got. But it seems like whatever we get, it's going to be around a 90. So hopefully on the upper end of a 90. Otherwise, I'll get a B, which, you know, is what it is. So yeah, we will see how that goes, and I will give you guys my view on the course. I kind of alluded to how I felt about this game AI course kind of over the last few episodes, because in terms of technical content, it's been a little bit lighter. So I won't belabor that point preceding the final review that I'm definitely going to launch pretty soon. But yeah, you know, overall, happy with how things ended. Hopefully this grade goes well enough for me. And I should have mentioned earlier, Gradescope doesn't actually tell you what you got. Like, it says I got 100 because I submitted all the right files, but they're going to grade it by hand. They graded the fuzzy logic assignment by hand. Technically, I mean, I got graded by Gradescope, and then they made sure I didn't cheat. That's basically it. So yeah, that was pseudo graded by hand. I would imagine that the procedurally generated content assignment is actually generated or graded by hand. And yeah, we'll see what we get, and I will let you guys know how that went and how the class went overall in the next episode of this vlog. So thanks a lot for watching. There's been lots of exciting stuff going on the channel lately. We just hit 100 subscribers. Super stoked about that. And yeah, even though the move is still pretty crazy right now, I'm really excited to get back into like my real professional development, like actual videos instead of kind of Q&As and different cutesy stuff. As fun as that has been, celebrating the new milestone, I definitely am excited to get back to the bread and butter of this channel. So the next video will definitely be one of those. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you then.